Well, welcome to this edition of The Pipeline. I'm Corey Morgan, digital editor, columnist, ranter. I'm sitting with our publisher, Derek Fildebrand.
G'day.
And we've got our news editor, the man who's just been pumping out all those fantastic stories, Dave Naylor, who's dialing in.
Morning, gentlemen.
We got a few things to cover. We had a live feed last night of the BC debates in their provincial election. Derek ran that, and we'll have some things to say on it. The world's certainly all stirred up with the proposed changes to how some services are going to be done with the Alberta Health Services, or whether they're going to be in-house or outsourced. There's the story of the day there today in Alberta. And we've got Justin Trudeau saying that the WE investigation is finished and done with, that it's over. We should just leave it behind us. But we should start perhaps, Derek, with the BC debate last night that the Western Standard covered, and what conclusions you came to in your viewing there.
Well, there were officially the Green Party leader, the BC NDP leader, BC Liberal leader, but taken together with the moderator, there really were four Liberals in the debate, just trying to see who could out-left each other. It was quite extraordinary. I think John Horgan probably came across the best. He was the only one who seemed confident in his skin up there. None of them really smiled, except for John Horgan, where he had kind of a Cheshire shitty grin on his face at one point, as Andrew Wilkinson was talking about ending the complete government monopoly over auto insurance, the ICBC over there. But he, they're all very dour. The Green leader, in particular, Sonia, really had just a scowl on her face the whole night. So none of them came across very well, I think. But I think Horgan still probably came out on top, but nothing definitive. I don't think if you're, unless you're extremely unsure about how you're voting, I don't think many minds were changed last night. But it was quite extraordinary, the degree to which there were virtual unanimity on 95% of the issues between the three party leaders, essentially opinions ranging from the center left to the very hard left. And the moderator herself, she did a good job of keeping order and control of the debate, very much unlike the U.S. presidential debate that we saw. But it was she was an outright combatant in the debate to an extraordinary degree. She accused all three party leaders of white privilege. She doesn't know these people. She, at least that I'm aware of, she doesn't know their backstories, doesn't know if any of them have, perhaps not been grown up with a silver spoon in their hand. But she accused them all of white privilege, and with no check on the premises. There was, just she really she said things that were not up for debate, up for dispute, and then put it out there. She even had, the BC Liberal Party is a very funny creature there. It's essentially supposed to be a coalition of anybody who's not a hardline socialist. So it's sort of middle of the road liberals. Hard left liberals in BC tend to vote NDP, but it's essentially middle of the road business liberals with conservatives. I'm not a British Columbian. I lived there for a year. When I was there, I was, if I'm politically homeless in Alberta, boy, I was sure politically homeless in BC. There is nothing to the right. I'd say, the BC Liberals are a little bit to the right of Justin Trudeau. But anything like, I'd say probably a majority of people watching right now, it really was a very weird debate to watch with remarkably low level of any kind of ideological diversity.
So it's unfortunate. I know the BC Conservative Party has been struggling just to show some degree of relevance even, or be seen on the scene. They weren't even invited to the debate. I don't imagine they had enough candidates to be considered welcome. But I mean, it's an unfortunate thing with an election that seems to be such kind of sliding under the radar and a done deal when you aren't seeing some diversity and options for the voters up there, particularly during a debate. So, let's out left each other. It's kind of frightening. Dave, you spent some quality time in BC a little while ago. You saw the campaign to be a little bit on the underwhelming side, I guess, or hard to even know what's going on.
It was, Corey. I was there for 5 weeks. Very little talk about it, very few signs. As I mentioned earlier, in my drive home from Vancouver area, I did not see one election sign all the way to Calgary. I just don't think it's coming. The election's coming at such a horrible time during a pandemic. People just want to get it over with and then try and get on dealing with COVID, I think.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing Horgan riding high in the polls, taking advantage of that early election call, just wants to get it over with and renew his mandate and not have to answer to a green tail wagging his NDP dog like has been the last few years.
And he did take some heat, as you would expect, during the debate, both the Liberal leader and the Green giving him hell for it, but particularly the Green leader. They had a deal with him. There's not just a fixed election date in Alberta that you're presumably supposed to respect in some measure, but they also had a formal agreement with the NDP that was supposed to last 4 years. I guess that's politics. People will keep their word so long as it's convenient for them, and as long as once it's not convenient anymore, well, then that's just too bad. But Horgan's argument for the early election was, it's never wrong to ask British Columbians what they want. No one cares. Parties don't care what people want other than just so much as the polls dictate what's popular. I mean, it's pretty clear. They've got high polls right now. They're virtually guaranteed a significant size majority government. That's why they're doing it. But I suppose it would be a bit strange for someone to actually admit that.
So I guess turning into Alberta here, Dave, you've been busy with a number of stories from different perspectives coming in on proposed changes to where Alberta Health Services is going to be sourcing some of the services such as laundry and food preparation and other items. Can you fill us in on that?
All sorts of controversy on it, Corey. On Tuesday, the UCP Health Minister, Tyler Shandro, announced the Alberta Health Services plan. They're going to lay off 800 jobs. None of them will be actual layoffs. They'll all be through attrition. They will transfer 9,700 jobs off the government payroll and to the private sector. Those will be 2,000 laboratory jobs, 4,000 housekeeping jobs, 400 laundry jobs, and can't read my notes here. 3,000 in food services. So the Alberta unions have reacted with shock and horror, and are. I don't think it'll happen, but there's even some rumblings of a general strike. They say that these layoffs are going to predominantly affect women because the vast majority of the workers that are involved here are women. But Derek, the unions are losing their minds.
Well, that's a sign that the government's doing something right. Is when the Alberta Federation of Labor and public sector unions, when their heads are exploding, that means something's normally gone right. This government has been remarkably timid on actually cutting any kind of cost, particularly on the the government employee side of the ledger, which is where 3/4 of government spending goes, is to paying government employees. I remember when I was finance critic for the Wild Rose, we were dumbfounded that the NDP would it costed millions and millions of dollars to cancel contracts with private firms so that they could create a bunch of unionized government positions for housekeeping and laundry in the healthcare system. And so, predictably, the NDP and the public sector unions, AFL, they're saying not having official government employees cleaning the laundry and doing the housekeeping is now American-style privatized healthcare. Now, I don't really have a problem with that, but that's not actually what's happening. What's happening is they don't have bureaucrats cleaning the laundry. That's it. And they're lighting their hair on fire, saying these are huge cuts. And I really don't think a lot of the mainstream media is helping with this. They're labeling this as this is AHS layoffs. And for most people who just read the headline or the first two sentences of a story, they're seeing this and saying, well, that must mean thousands of doctors and nurses and people who actually do things in the healthcare system are, not to diminish that you need housekeeping and whatnot, but you don't need to be a government employee to do these things. But people who are actually delivering the frontline healthcare, a lot of people are mistaking that. The NDP and the unions are obviously playing into that. That's, I suppose that's just fair politics. But I don't think the government's being aggressive enough in fighting on this They're very timid and afraid of these unions, I find. And I think they would just be better to say, fine, the NDP's platform is to have the government washing bed sheets. Government jobs don't exist to keep people employed. They exist to do jobs that the private sector and private society couldn't otherwise reasonably be expected to do. And if you don't think the private sector can wash some bed sheets, then that's your worldview.
Well, and there's a lot of, I think, bad narrative going on with this. Like, for example, they do keep talking about 11,000 jobs lost. Well, wait a minute. At worst, they're shifting. I mean, it's not like they're getting rid of these services. They're just talking about somebody else providing them. Now, a private sector provider may be more efficient, and it may indeed, what used to take 3,000 people to do the laundry might now be 2,500 doing it. But it's still not a total wash and loss of jobs if jobs are the only focus. By the way, a reminder, we are live, so people are welcome to comment. We can see those on the screen, and we'll happily answer them. I see some folks lurking in there. You're welcome to speak up on it. So that narrative annoys me when I see that coming out. But also just that assumption that, that somehow unionized government workers are going to do it better or more efficiently than others. You weren't here back in those times, Derek. I suspect Dave might have been, but the days when the government ran the liquor stores. So you had, maybe a dozen liquor stores in Calgary.
I was in kindergarten.
Yeah, okay. They were open during bankers' hours. They seemed to go on strike every couple of years. The beer was only warm. You couldn't get it cold. And it was just terrible. And the union screamed bloody murder when Klein privatized them. But, who really actually wants to go back to that? Or auto registries. You used to have to take a day off work to go in and take a number and sit there to renew your driver's license with some, again, if they weren't on strike that month, very well-compensated union government worker. The services from registries are no worse. I mean, these are things that clearly outside services can provide with just as much quality. So the end user isn't getting hooped. It's not just a broad cut. So for dipping their toe in the water of health reform, it's, as you said, they've been scared of the unions so far.
It's pretty modern,
at least.
If this is healthcare reform, just that the government doesn't wash the sheets anymore, with the government's still going to get your sheets washed, but not physically doing it itself. That's pretty tepid stuff. But this kind of comes back to how the UCP, I think, is kind of getting the worst. Their strategy in communicating these things and in their actions is kind of the worst of both worlds. They dip their toe and get these guys letting their hair on fire, but then they don't actually go that far and do that much. I mean, at the end of the day, this is going to be a good thing, but it's not going to revolutionize the healthcare system. It's just going to save a little bit of money. So if they're going to piss these unions and the NDP off anyway, but then really piss them off. Get something done so you actually have something to show for it at the end of 4 years.
Well, there's a lot more they can do.
I think one of the things that's not being talked about is AHS management. They have 3,300 managers. I'll say that again: 3,300 in management. You can just imagine, and I think they said 17 vice presidents. Just a crazy number. So, but the government has said you've got to cut 100 out of 3,300. Not exactly a drastic cut to management.
No, and I would hope then maybe if they're outsourcing some of these other services, it would tell me that you need less managers to deal with that aspect of things too. So I think they could cut some fat in that department while they're at it.
Well, why don't we move on?
Sure, we can move on to, the WE scandal, the only thing that's really been dogging the federal Liberals. I mean, we had the Trudeau show going all spring with his morning address to us all, which actually seemed to help him, and he was really rising in the polls. I thought we might be in for a federal election this fall in the same opportunism as the BC approach. But then the WE scandal broke, and everything sort of hit the fan and fell apart, and some of the sheen finally started washing off the Prime Minister blackface there. And he started dropping in the polls, and so he cut a deal with the NDP, and off we go. But now that they've prorogued Parliament, they've cut their deal, it sounds like they're shutting down the committees and trying to shut down any more talk or discussion on this and saying the case is closed. But I think it's anything but.
Yeah, Prime Minister Trudeau held a press conference on Tuesday where he said, in effect, case is closed on the WE. We've been transparent. We've released thousands of pages of documents.
Those are real quotes, by the way, people. Yeah, we've been transparent and the case is closed.
Yeah,
these are real quotes. These are not Dave taking any liberty and paraphrasing things. These are real quotes from the Prime Minister.
Yes, we have been transparent, and as far as the Liberals are concerned, it's case closed on the WE scandal. Trudeau said if the Tories continued to want to ask questions about it, that's up to them, but they were getting on with the job of governing the country through a pandemic. The Liberals, meanwhile, are into their second week of filibustering, trying to stop the Tories from accessing more documents. I think they're trying to get specific on how much money the Trudeau family, the close relatives of Trudeau, has made, and I think the current total is above 700,000 between his mother and various siblings, and his wife was in there for a few thousand too. So Trudeau may want it to go away. I don't see the opposition letting it go. Do you, Corey?
No, and I don't think we're going to let it go either. This is a sick story of self-serving corruption. I mean, I think part of why it grabbed this much attention too, though, was it showed that disconnect. I mean, Trudeau is not an everyman. He's a Laurentian trust fund baby who felt a sense of entitlement. He really, you could tell, didn't understand even what they did wrong at first. He didn't get it. Well, so I got mom a couple $100,000, so I got my brother 10, 20 grand. That's what we do. That's where we're Trudeau's. I mean, they didn't understand that to people like us who are struggling to pay our mortgages, this is odious. This is outrage, and not just in Alberta. So I think they finally realized how damaging it is now. Maybe not why, but they don't know how to put the lid back on the bottle.
Yeah, it's been almost a Kafkaesque farce in how far the Liberals have gone to stop this. The Tory finance critic Pierre Poilievre, or Polyev, however you want to slice that, he was trying to bring forward a motion to strike a special committee to investigate the weed corruption scandal, and Wayne Easter. All these people are meeting remotely. They're behind computers. They're not physically in a room together right now. And Wayne Easter, the Liberal chair of the committee, literally just hit stop on the Zoom meeting without a vote, which is quite illegal and unconstitutional for a committee meeting to end, at least under those kinds of rules. Certain committees have automatic drop dead times. I used to chair the Public Accounts Committee, and I remember the NDP tried to stop us from investigating something once. They brought forward a motion to stop us, and we filibustered until we ran out the clock, and I said, meeting's over, and because it was automatic. That was the rules. But in the rules of this particular committee, the meeting only ends when the committee votes to end the meeting. Otherwise, it goes on forever. And he just hit stop on the Zoom and ended the meeting before there could be any kind of discussion or debate on having a special anti-corruption committee. So, it has really just been a farce how far the Liberals are going to keep a lid on this. But, as bad as it is, and it has softened them in the polls, I don't think it's going to soften them that much more. At the end of the day, people support a party. They assume that everything is corrupt, everything is bad. So as long as it's our guys, who cares? I mean, it's not like all Liberals are going to stop voting Liberal. A couple of people on the fence will peel left to the NDP. A couple people on the right will peel to the Tories. But that's going to be about it. I don't think, unless there is a criminal charges, which is damn near impossible to prove in something like this. Unless there are criminal charges, I don't think this is going to bring the government down. But it certainly makes for a bad day.
Yeah, it's a good day for us. Speaking of stories and such, have you got more coming here, Dave, you're working on this week?
Well, we've got the Saskatchewan provincial election debate. That's happening tonight. I think the three of us will be back on the screen for that. And we'll just keep plugging away. Whatever comes up, we're going to cover it.
Yeah, tonight, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock Pacific, we're going to have a live broadcast of the Saskatchewan Leaders Debate. That is the NDP and Saskatchewan Party leaders. We're actually right now in negotiations with the leaders of some of the smaller parties who were not invited to the Leaders Debate, potentially to have the Western Standard host the other Leaders Debate, the second tier, if you will. And we'll have more news on that hopefully soon. But 6 o'clock tonight, Mountain, we're going to have the Saskatchewan Leaders Debate, followed by kind of an analysis and breakdown by the three of us who are here, Dave and Corey. So we'll be carrying that live. And obviously we'll have more as we get to the actual election days of both British Columbia and Saskatchewan. Before we go, though, I want to thank everyone who's donated to our crowdfunding campaign to fund a poll. We are, the Western Standard, semi-regularly we try to get, we hire an independent pollster to ask questions of Westerners that are often ignored by the mainstream media. So we'll ask them more fair and balanced questions. We'll ask people, Westerners, about the independence question. We ask them, do you support independence or not? We don't say, do you support separating from your beloved mother country? We ask fair questions. We want to ask about support for provincial police forces, provincial pension plans, collecting our own taxes, a lot of issues, and also, where parties sit in the polls. And we include most part, you can't include the infinite list of like the Animal Alliance and whatnot, but we try to have a much longer list than the media will ask for. When we see polls recently in the media with 8% other, that makes me scratch my head and say, well, who the hell are the 8%? So we want to do polls and figure out who are those 8%. So we're right now we are trying to crowdsource to be able to afford this poll. It's going to cost $2,000. If we can meet that goal, we're going to be able to do it. So far, we've had a great response, but we're not at our goal yet. So please go to westernstandardonline.com. Go into the membership section. There's a section where you can make enter a custom amount for a donation to help us reach our goal. And if you're not a member yet, also just go to the membership section and please sign up to become a member. We are one of the very few media outlets in Canada that does not accept government funding, and we're one of the very few that refuses to apply for a federal government media license. I'd rather see us go bankrupt before we become a licensed media outlet with the approval of the government. Oh, and by the way, the Western Standard is not on the CBC's list of approved trusted media
CBC
outlets.
doesn't approve. That's
the CBC
sad face.
The CBC officially does not approve of the Western Standard. Although occasionally they do quote us when they're like, well, what do crazy Westerners think?
Yeah.
I guess Western Standard is where you go to find out.
Well, the CBC wouldn't know, that's for sure. Just following up, too, and part of why we do this live, though, is we can get those comments, and that'll be kind of fun during the debate tonight. We can chat while we go. We've had a few people, Dan Maisonneuve, I'm probably slaughtering the French, as we always do, but pointing out that it's funny.
Maisonneuve.
Yeah, okay. Funny that criminals don't get the privilege of telling us when a case is closed. Yeah, if you're in the right family, you get to say case closed, not for your run-of-the-mill criminal. And Andrea Kettle, who's on quite regular, asking if it was 4 Eastern Standard Time for the Saskatchewan debate. I believe that would be right, because Saskatchewan and Alberta are on the same time for the next few weeks now.
We are the same most of the year, but every once in a while,
for half of the year, we're an hour off.
Yeah.
So,
but if you're watching from the east, as I'm guessing that's why Andrea's probably asking.
She's in Ontario. Yeah.
Okay, if you're Ontario, it'd be 4 p.m. Eastern time. You can tune in. It'll be 90 minutes long.
Wouldn't it be 8 p.m.?
Pardon?
Wouldn't it be 8 p.m.?
Yes, actually.
It starts at 6. Here,
yeah. Oh, yeah, we're doing it terribly. Yeah, they're later. Okay. That's it.
Math is hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks,
so,
Dave.
So it'll be 8 p.m. if you're in the east. It'll be 90 minutes long. So, by our time, 6. So by 7:30, the three of us will be live directly here. And we'll kind of give a bit of a breakdown and analysis of what happened and what we think the fallout is going to be for the election. All right. Well, I think that's it.
Slice.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for watching today. We appreciate your time. To all our members, thank you very much for your support. And if you're not a member yet, please go online and get your membership. For $10 a month, you can make sure that you don't have to watch the CBC anymore. Thanks a lot.